everyone, my name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to my road to Deadpool and Wolverine, where I'm covering every 20th Century Fox X-Men movie in honor of Deadpool and Wolverine, coming in just about a week and a half by the time this video drops. I've covered everything from the first X-Men up through X-Men First Class. Those links will be in the eye in the right-hand corner. Do check those out. But for right now, let us dive into a real oddity of this series, the Wolverine. This was directed by James Mangold, a very talented director, Dial of Destiny notwithstanding. And this is the sort of sequel to X-Men Origins Wolverine. I don't know, continuity, schmontinuity, I gotta remember that. But first, I got to introduce my co-host for this. He is over at the Phil Talks Sports channel. It's my good buddy Phil. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate this. I'm a huge Wolverine fan, so I like to support and straight up defend his movies whenever I can, because that's the case for a lot of these. So I'm glad we could get together for this one.
I've known Phil for so long that at his old house he had a poster of this movie up, like in his living room, and it's not there anymore. So I forget, was that a victim of the hurricane or was it
Uh,
something else?
it was kind of a victim of the move into the house we're in now. I'm so glad you brought that up because I plan to bring that up. Working at a movie theater, you obtain. I think everybody has that one college movie poster, and it has nothing to do with if the movie was good or not. That just lived on your wall forever. For me, it was this. It was Gangster Squad of all things, and the original Ted poster, which I wish I still had that. But always liked Wolverine, and regardless of your opinion of this movie, that poster is pretty iconic. Like I thought they should have called it Wolverine 2, and he's got the two blades out. I would have also settled for Wolverine Goes to Japan. I think that's a good indicator of what this movie has to offer. But yes, a great poster that I had for a very long time. Unfortunately, I don't anymore. But yeah, just a great times back then. Yeah, I do wish I still had that, but that did not make the move into this house, and the flood probably would have did it in otherwise. So it wasn't long for this earth after that.
In the closet behind me, I have the poster for Avengers Infinity War that says May 4th. As many of you, I'm sure, know, the date got moved back to April 27th. So I'm going to hold on to that and maybe it might be worth something one day.
I regret not stealing the. I say stealing. I was going to be giving it to me. The original Sonic the Hedgehog poster had Chris Pratt in it laying on the cop car with Sonic, and it was up in our local theater. And I still had people that worked there that knew me, and they were going to let me steal that when they delayed it. And for some reason, I didn't take because it was before they fixed Sonic. So I'm like, oh, I don't want that in my house, but would have been a cool little piece to have for sure.
Definitely. But let's get into talking about the Wolverine. And like I said, this is very much an oddity of the greater X-Men Fox series because this was the first standalone Wolverine movie after Origins. I famously made my dislike of that movie well known in my video, so I'm not going to rehash that here. But as far as the Wolverine goes, it's the one that I remembered the least because I remembered Origins for it being so bad, in my opinion, and then Logan, which came much later, which, I mean, spoiler alert, Phil's going to be joining me for that review coming up very soon. We're both just going to
Look
gush
forward
over
to that.
that movie is awesome. But the Wolverine is the real weird one because it's directed by James Mangold, who also directed Logan, stars Hugh Jackman, obviously. It's a standalone Wolverine movie, but no one really talks about it. And not like in the first class sense where it's of high quality, but like it gets swept under the rug. This one just feels like that got made? Really? And I don't know. I've always liked the movie. I'm glad I rewatched it for this. I think for me personally, I don't know. Like it's a mixed bag for sure. Phil, what say you?
Yeah, so there's a lot of times whether I review a movie with you or over on my own channel, which is all sports movies, as you can imagine. I often say the phrase like, "I remember this movie being okay, but rewatching it, I really enjoyed it." This kind of had the opposite effect. I think I remember for the most part enjoying this movie, and I think it was just the hype of Wolverine finally gets a standalone movie where the first half isn't him getting his powers and getting the antimantium. It's just him being a badass for 2+ hours or whatever this runtime is. I think it's like just over 2 hours. So I think at the time I was just really excited for a standalone Wolverine movie, and that alone carried me through it. And there's some really iconic stuff in here. The opening 10 minutes is crazy. When he does like open heart surgery on himself is incredible. But there's a lot of meh in between. Like I rewatched it for this review, and there was just a lot of stuff that I felt like I could have skipped through. But I'm also someone on the opposite account that loves Origins. And the reason for that is if you've ever picked up the comic itself, like it's a shot for shot remake of that. Like if I flip through this book right now, you can almost see everything the same. So the people that say they don't like Origins, really, you don't like his origin story because it's the same. And it even turned into a pretty decent game on the PlayStation. So Origins was good to me. This, I think, if nothing else, to give it a little bit of credit, maybe just didn't age well watching it in 2024, which I liked it back when. And it's your tip. If nothing else, it's your typical action movie, so you can get some enjoyment out of it. Again, I always jokingly call it Wolverine Goes to Japan because, like, granted, he's well traveled. Like in the beginning, he's in World War II, I think, or whatever it is, and so like he's been around for a while because he doesn't age, he doesn't die. We can get into the how does he get drunk conversation here or in Logan. It's up to you, but due to his powers, so it's not hard to believe that he'd be over in the East, but it's just like it's almost a fish out of water story because like he has a reason to be there, like that's obvious, but I don't know, he just never is fully comfortable. His quote unquote, like there's a reason for him to be with the woman he's with in this movie, but like I never buy their interest. It just seems like we're in the same place at the same time, and it's scary. I never really feel that their love or their infatuation is justified. So it's just like it misses the mark in a lot, and it's one of the few movies that I said I've liked that I'll go back and be like, hey, you know what? No, I don't think I like this one as much as I remember, which was kind of hurtful to see because, like I said, I had the poster forever. This movie meant a lot to me at the time, and just doesn't hold up as much as I remembered, if I'm honest.
I remember you were talking about the opening. You were talking about the opening. I was rewatching it and was like, wow, I legit forgot how cool this was. This is honestly like I hesitate to say the movie peaked in the beginning, but it kind of peaked in the
It did.
beginning.
I think it
Where
did.
where Wolverine is in that little bomb shelter and all the Japanese generals are about to do the honor killings on themselves, and then the bomb drops, and then we later learn as the villain of the movie, Wolverine grabs him, like shoves him down into the shelter, and then you see crispy, crunchy Wolverine, but then he slowly like heals himself in real time. You're just like, that is a crazy, insane effect for 2013. So it's weird to say the movie peaked in the beginning, but I think it kind of peaked in the beginning and then it was just kind of downhill from there almost.
Yeah, there's not a lot of movies that peak in the first like 10, 12 minutes, but like when I pulled up Disney Plus, which is weird enough to like that's where I needed to go to watch this. Like, but once I got over that and it started, I'm like, yeah, like this is awesome. I'm glad I have a reason to rewatch this or whatever. And you see that, and maybe this is where Bray Wyatt, God rest his soul, got like the burnt gimmick from. Maybe he's like, oh, Wolverine was cool doing it. Maybe I can do it. But you already said it. It's if it starts at like a 9, because that's one thing you can say about all three of these. It's a trilogy, but it's not. But I'm going to call it a trilogy. Logan has an incredible first 10 minutes. Origins, it about 10 minutes in, it has a crazy 10 minutes. These movies know how to start fast. They know how to punch you in the mouth and make you be like, oh, what am I about to witness? This doesn't capitalize. There's a lot of dialogue after this. Granted, it's necessary because why else would Logan be in, Wolverine be in Japan? The reason makes sense. I can't poke holes in the plot. The plot is solid enough, but it's just not as entertaining as it needs to be to keep you there the whole time.
I like how you pointed out that there was a lot of dialogue after the opening because it does feel that way, yes. I was invested in it, yes, but then there was that whole not barn, but there was a scene in the bar where it was like the poison tipped arrow, and that was like, I don't know, like it was kind of
That
weird.
I kind of like when you compare it to the rest of the movie. That might be like the third best scene in the movie because he's very. I think it's just because he lives in the mountains, so he feels protective about that area. Um, and almost all the Wolverine movies and even some of the X-Men movies, you got to have Logan in a bar. Like it's you got to put that off the checklist. But yeah, like you said, most people don't love it. So for that to be, that's easily a top 5 scene in the movie, and that there in turn lies the problem.
The thing the thing that always stuck out to me was that was weirdly how convoluted like the villain's like methods or not methods but like his motivation was because he's trying to get Wolverine's healing powers, and he just, I don't know, it just felt needlessly over convoluted. You got his son who's trying to help him, and then he gives everything to his granddaughter, and it just, I don't know, it lost me. It lost me at a certain point.
Honestly, I feel like it lost him as well. So he's like, all right, like nothing's gonna happen to me. There's this millionaire guy that's well regarded that I can help without doing a whole lot. Like, all right, fine. Like he seemed pretty nonchalant through the whole story too, which is kind of what makes you as the viewer be like, okay, like we'll see where this goes. And that's what you're doing for a lot of this movie, just seeing where stuff goes. And a lot of it doesn't go anywhere, in my opinion.
You did bring up that the open heart surgery scene was very cool as well. That I legit forgot that that was even a thing. Like when it
Yeah.
was happening, I was like, where are they going with this? Because Wolverine's powers are suppressed throughout the entirety of the movie, which is honestly more of a metaphor for this entire movie, like Wolverine's powers being suppressed than anything else, especially now that we have Logan regularly available. But that scene where he's like on the table, he's in his chest, he's trying to grab that little robot thing while the sword fight's going on behind him. I'm like, can somebody help this poor man?
And I don't know, there's no real reason for that. I guess it's just the way he's going in, but he just pulls one claw out. And up to that point, I don't think we've seen him only pull one claw. It was either it's like a cat, like they're retracted or they're not, you know? So for him to just pull the one claw and make a fine tune, like you said, his stuff is submerged at the moment. So like he feels, if not all of this, he feels 80-90% of this, which is important to remember. And I get the concept behind we got to make a movie where Wolverine doesn't have all his powers. Because next to Superman, if you watch something that he does, it's like it doesn't, there's not a lot of stakes. Like we've seen him take a bomb to the back and he's fine in like 8 minutes. So I do understand the concept of like we have to take some of his powers away to put him in danger that you believe is actual danger. Because otherwise, like I don't think there's a way to kill Wolverine. I mean, I think you can drown him, right? That's something that comes up in the comics at some point. But in general, like there's not a lot of danger you can put this guy in. So they have to find ways to make the danger seem real. So to that part, I understand.
Well, as of this recording, I've just finished a fresh rewatch of X-Men Days of Future Past, and Wolverine ends up at the bottom of the Potomac River, and he
Right.
somehow survives that. So the drowning theory is suspect at best, but that's going to be a whole nother video for later on this week. But as far as this goes, I think there's a good idea here where presenting Wolverine as someone who like presenting a Wolverine that doesn't have his full abilities, I thought would have been rather good, or at least showing that Wolverine's powers are not all they're cracked up to be. But at the same time, I feel like it's done better in Logan. Like the one scene where he has to like pull the one claw out, like
Yes. Yes.
that was intense. And here they touch on it some with the whole ability of he can't die, but that's a blessing and a curse because he actually can't die. I feel like they could have done more with that, and it feels to me at least like a half measure.
That's kind of the premise of Wolverine's character in movie form. I don't think they drive it quite home as much in like comics, especially not in the X-Men, but like standalone stuff with him. But it's like the best thing about Wolverine is he can't die. But if you ask him, the worst thing about Wolverine is he can't die. And you know, I don't want to step too much on the Logan dialogue because we're gonna get to that in a future video. But like that's what it comes down to. Where like even if they pull his healing ability to give to this man, like it's supposed to stay with him, but even if it doesn't, he's kind of okay with that. Like the human consciousness is only meant to be here for so long, which they bring up at certain times, especially in his flashbacks with Jean Grey or whatever. So like he misses her, but I think she's more of just a metaphor of like you've already lived a full human life. And like yes, you're a mutant, but you're a human first. And there's only so much you can do after that. There's only so much good you can do after that too. And he tries his best to do good, but at the end of the day, it's just like I'm walking this earth when I have no longer need to do it, which I think is what it comes down to with him in a lot of the time.
If there's one thing that we can take away from Origins is that as of like if this movie does take place in 2013 and Logan was born I want to say the 1850s, then he is well over 100 years old.
Right.
So he has been around a while. And they even say in the first X-Men movie, they being Dr. Jean Grey, makes his age impossible to determine. He might even be older than you, Professor. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of stuff dealing with Wolverine's mortality or lack thereof, and that I did appreciate. I feel like I wish they would have done more with it, but when it was there, I did like it.
It makes me wonder too, because like, just to step back into origins, like he was born to the person he thought was his father was not his father. So like, is his actual father, did he have some human abilities too? You're led to believe so. How old was that man? You know what I mean? Like it goes back even farther than him. Like if he's thought to be born in the 1850s, do we go back another 100 years from him for his actual biological father? So there's always more questions, and then his memory is always an issue in these movies, and they come back in flashbacks. We can be a little overjarring. Like I'm okay with one or two of those, but eventually, like how many times does he have to wake up in the middle of the night with his claws out for the Japanese woman to be like, maybe we don't sleep in the same bed, just in case, just so you don't decapitate me. It's nothing against you. I just want to live. But there they are again, like three times over. So it's just one of those like the tropes of Wolverine are more obvious in this movie than really any other thing he's in.
Wolverine was definitely the most interesting character in the movie, which is the movie's strength, but it also means that we're surrounded by a bunch of like succession level plots, like a
Yeah,
lot of like corporate stuff and like transfer of power that I just did not care about personally. Like when he deals with samurai stuff, I thought that was cool. But then you got
yeah.
like the granddaughter, like I touched on earlier, with the granddaughter thinking about she's trying to take the power and like the father was supposed to, and then it turns out the grandfather was just, it was a big power play. I don't know. I just, at a certain point, I was just like, I don't care about any of this now. Like, can't it just be Wolverine and Yoruko and then just leave the
Yeah.
rest of them behind and they're fighting Dr. Green or the Viper,
Here's
no
the thing.
relation to Randy Orton?
And here's the thing, Logan barely cares about any of this either. So
Yeah.
to expect you as a viewer to care about it is quite the stretch, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's very strange, and it leads to an ending where it's supposed to be this big reveal that the old man was behind it all along. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I've seen the movie a few times, but I'm like, I could see this coming a little bit.
Yeah.
And the way he was talking, the way he was like talking about Wolverine, about giving him a honorable death, I was just sitting there like, okay, he wants the powers for something sinister. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. I guess I could see it coming.
I will say this though, because I've done enough, chopping this movie down. The honorable death like subplot makes enough sense when you think that this is like there's samurai, there's the Japanese culture. The concept of an honorable death is something that's like obvious to them. And then another incredible scene I thought was when Wolverine's claws are out and he like cuts them off when he tries to like drill into their base, and Logan is experiencing like a pain that he one never thought he would, and like one he didn't know was possible. That's like right up there with the open heart surgery scene. Like there are some there are some great bits in this movie. This is a movie that you just watch the highlights of it on YouTube because the stuff that ties it together is missing a lot.
I agree. And I think just to bring the period at the end of the sentence for this review, I think for me personally, there's good ideas, good action. Hugh Jackman, of course, brings it, but I feel like there's something holding this movie back. And I hate to bring up Logan again, but I feel like I almost can't help it because James Mangold directed this, being the Wolverine, and also Logan. And Logan is 1,000 times better than the Wolverine. But I still think this movie's pretty enjoyable. I'm going to give it a good rating personally. Rewatching it again, I was like, this was fun. But really, I felt just the overwhelming need of this was supposed to be rated R, right? And I have a feeling that the world just was not ready for that.
I think you can almost, it's impossible now to not compare it to Logan, but like I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he learned what worked and what didn't in this movie, and that's what made Logan so good. Like if you ever play like a game from like the early '90s that's like remastered, and there's all these quality of life improvements in the game that you're like, I love the original, but it's so hard to go back to because of all the things they just made easier, like when they remaster a Zelda or a Pokemon or whatever it might be. And it's just like it's a smoother experience. Even if you like the original, it's hard to go back to. I think this is just one of those like we know what people want to see from a Wolverine movie, and we know what they don't want to see now. And then when Logan came out, we just got like 3 hours of what we wanted to see instead of a 2 hour movie with maybe 45 minutes of what we wanted to see.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of the Wolverine? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read what you have to say. Phil will be joining me once again on this Road to series to talk about Logan, and I cannot wait. I haven't watched that movie in a minute. I just rewatched Days of Future Past. It blew me away, like how good that was. I can't wait to rewatch Logan because I've always loved the movie. I haven't seen it ever since I saw it on a plane to Germany about five
Oh
years
wow!
ago, and I've had the Blu-ray forever, and so
Yep,
I'm
I got it.
so I am very much looking forward to watching it again. But Phil, thank you so much for joining me. You will be joining me for Logan, but thank you for joining me for this one. Your channel's linked below. What do you got coming up?
Appreciate it. No, I look forward to Logan as well. It's about to get, but we're kind of in the dead spot for sports in general as we just got the dog days of baseball going on. I do plan a few sports reviews coming up. I have the Shorzy season 2 and 3 coming up with my friend Nick Gimbel, and I'm hoping to get a Ted Lasso episode in just to encompass the 3 seasons that was. Just a great show. And then we're just going to get back into as college football rolls around. We'll get back into kind of the weekly episodes, just breaking down weekly sports. But otherwise, just really looking forward to Logan. Thanks for having me, man.
Barbecue sauce. But Phil's channel is going to be linked in the description. Go give him a subscribe there. As far as this channel goes, the road to continues on. As coming up a little later this week, Jacob Collins from 3D Movie Cinema will be joining me once again to review X-Men Days of Future Past, and I can safely say that the X-Men movies kind of peaked with that one. I'm talking X-Men movies. I'm not including Logan. Logan is in a weird little gray area. I'm talking about billed as X-Men. X-Men in the title. Days of Future Past, they never got better than that. But what did you all think of Wolverine? Comment down below. My name is Ryan Cam with Phil. We'll see you in the next one.